All right, so welcome back to part 5, I think we're at for this little app. So I'm not really sure what to add next, so this part of the series might be kind of all over the place, but one thing that'd be nice is if users could select with like a date picker the actual date that they want. Now, if you look at HTML date pickers, there are some stuff built into the browser. Like you could do input type date, and I believe that'll like allow you to do a date picker like this, which is great. If you just need something simple, but I want to be able to basically show a calendar that has maybe the days in different colors depending on what your symptoms were. So days that were bad, like I'm going to have red. Days that were good, I'll keep green. Just so it gives you another tool to kind of analyze what may be going on. Why are some days worse than others? So the best thing to do is Google React calendar components. And let's try to see what I can find. So the first thing that comes up is React Calendar. There's also this best 10 calendars thing maybe we should look at. But let's just check out the first one. Typically the first response is good. So we got a calendar here. Let's look through the features. We need to make sure that we can like change the color of the text or background to something, which it looks like we can. I'd also like if we can have the calendar be much larger, so that we can actually put like notes inside of each slot or cell, but I guess that doesn't matter too much. We'll just pick something and then come back and refactor later if we need to. Supports page range selection. So before I install this, I do want to make sure that it's super easy to style, because you don't want to pick a library and then like you spend 2 hours getting it working and then you realize you can't do something super simple with it, such as styling. So I want to say customizable. Need a decade picker? No problem. Blah blah blah. So I don't know if you can easily. All this other stuff. So I don't know. Should I go for it? Should I try this out? Got 313,000 weekly downloads. Let's just go ahead and use this and see how it works for our needs. So going over to our project, npm install. Oh, I guess I could just copy that exactly from. Today's gonna be rough. I don't have my glasses, and I'm not going to risk going downstairs into my room to get them because that's where my kids sleep. If I wake up my kids, then I can't do this video because they just keep asking for stuff. They want food. Who would have think they want food when they wake up? And I gotta get them changed and stuff. So anyway, so let's just see if we can use this React calendar. And usually you go to the docs, you read through the docs, and they'll tell you how to do it. You can say they can import it like this, and then you can use it like this. So let's just go ahead and import it. And let's go over here. I'm not sure where to add it. Like at some point we're gonna have to like split this up into a header component maybe and just like have different pages. But for right now, let's just find a place to put this. So I'm gonna put this above the current date picker selector here. Let's put it here. And by that, I mean I need to put the import up here. Where's this go? I'll import the calendar here, and then down at the bottom, I'm going to actually just use calendar. So going back to the page, it should reload and we get a calendar. So this looks really bad. There's no styling. So we need to go and figure out how to style it. Let's go back. Let's see if they explain how you can style it. This documentation is written for React Calendar 3.x. So one thing that's always good to keep in mind is when you download third-party libraries and packages, make sure you look at the versions, because right now, I don't know which one I just installed. I'm hoping that I installed version 3, because that's what the docs say, but just double check that I installed the right one, 370, okay? So then what you want to do is, okay, down here, custom styling, we want to import this. Let's just go ahead and in Next, you can import styles directly into, the top of your file. So let's just go to the index file. Let's import the CSS right after the calendar. And let's go ahead and here we go. All right, the calendar looks nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, is there a way I can easily override or customize the colors of the calendar? Like, what can I actually do with this calendar to customize it? Because, okay, going through stuff and clicking it's great. But I want to, again, I want to be able to color and highlight the individual cells based on data points. Hopefully that's not too hard to do. But what we could also do, because that's probably going to be more difficult, what I could do is just when you click on stuff, I want to change the selected date. So yeah, let's go to the docs if they explain that. So they have a bunch of props down here. And let's figure out what we actually want to use. Okay, it looks like you can style it with this class name thing. Default active state, default value, format month, format a year, input ref, max date. So I'm trying to figure out like which prop we'd want to use. I'm just looking at the names first to see if there's something that kind of stands out to me. On change stands out to me, so I do think we want to use on change because it's called whenever someone clicks a day on the month, which is kind of exactly what we need. So let's find that calendar, and we definitely need an on change. So let's just do this, and then let's go back to the docs and see what is passed to you. It looks like you're given a new date, which is exactly what we want to set. So let's make sure we get that date picked, and we are going to basically save that with, I think we call it set selected date picked. So we should be able to click it and we should see stuff change over here. So it is changing, which is cool. That was pretty easy to get integrated. But the issue is if I go to the network tab, I do not think it's loading new data every time, right? Now, the reason this isn't working is because we don't have like a use effect hook on selected date. We have like actual functions that you have to call, which would be, let's see, go to next day, set selected date, fetch selected date from API. So our step's a little bit manual. Again, I kind of like this better than adding washers to variables, because a lot of times you have variables or in state that you change, but you don't want them to like have a side effect attached with like changing this. I don't like the fact that if I call this function, it's going to change state, and then like there's like a use effect that it might invoke and change something. I don't know. It's just my personal preference. I like to be explicit. So when I set the selected date, I'm going to go ahead and call fetch selected date from API. And remember, there's like a little caveat with how state works in React. So I do need to call it with the other variable. So let's see if this works. We should, now when we click on the 13th, we should get back some data from the 13th and the 12th and the 11th. So this works, looks like it's working pretty good. What is today's date? The 25th. Okay, so it highlights today's date. Let me change some of these things. I just want to double check that this functionality didn't break. I know I didn't really change much since the last time I recorded the video, but you just don't want stuff randomly breaking on you. Okay. So this looks good. I don't like the fact that this calendar is always displayed at the top. Like, it's kind of tacky, and I'm trying to think, as a user, what is the most important thing that you can do? It's when you first load the app, entering your symptoms. So that's, I think, the most important thing that always needs to be displayed would be this. And then another use case would be obviously going back in time or kind of viewing the analytics or histogram of your stuff. So I think this should be something that's maybe to the side, or it's a button that you have to click to display this. And we could show it in a modal or something. I don't really know. But the first thing let's do is just add a button that looks like a calendar icon. And when you click it, it loads this section. So I don't think I have icons set up yet. let's do the functionality and we'll come back and add some icons. There's a bunch of different icon libraries you can use, but let's go to this component here, which would be this one. And I'm going to add another button here. I don't know what it's going to do yet, but I'm going to say calendar. It's like toggle calendar. How about that? Now, toggling something that you do all the time in web development, and especially React. So you should know how to toggle by now, but just to kind of show you this, let's make a new state variable called like show calendar and set show calendar. And I'm going to say use state, and I'm going to default that to false. So when this application first loads, what we're going to do is we're going to hide this calendar. Now, before I just wrap this in curlies and make it hide using like a typical React approach, I want to go to the API and I want to see if they have like an on show something. Like if they have a property that already does this, then I would probably just, strive for using it. But I don't know if they do. I'll search for hide. I'll search for show neighboring month. Show true. Display. So I'm just kind of searching for some keywords that might help us, but it doesn't look like they have a way to like just hide the entire component, which makes sense. I mean, why would you have that in a third-party library? That's more of something that should be on the external. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this like so in curlies and just say dynamically show this calendar if that show calendar boolean is true. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. And now what we want to do is inside of this on click, we can just simply say set show calendar. Do that. And then for toggling, like just do the negation of the boolean. Man, my voice is cracking this morning. Usually when I wake up in the morning, my voice cracks a lot and like I have to clear my throat. I'm trying so hard not to clear my throat because I spend like so much time editing these videos and just like removing all the points where I cough or clear my throat. So I'm trying to be conscientious about not doing that, and it's hard. Like a nervous tick I have. So if I click on toggle calendar, it will hide and it will show, which is cool. That's kind of what we want. It's kind of off-putting that the entire thing shifts down when I do that, but that's another UX UI thing that we can try to fix. So let's try to change this to a calendar icon. So we don't have icons in our next app yet, and we can try to add that. There's a lot of different libraries you can use. I think there's one called React Icons, which is actually pretty simple to just like install and use. Which you can do like this. Just let me zoom in. That's another thing you got to remember when I'm making videos is like you got to zoom in for the viewers because a lot of people are on their phones when they watch these videos. So if you're zoomed out like all the way, ain't nobody gonna be able to read your stuff. So let's just install this React Icons package. And even my VS Code might be zoomed out too much, but honestly, when I zoom in one more, it's just too hard to actually code. Like I can only see like one function at a time, which makes it like impossible to code. Let's go ahead and import this. So they have like different icons here when you use this library. And we want to look for a calendar. So I think you can just search for calendar. And then honestly, like, I don't know which one we want. They all probably kind of demonstrate the same thing. I kind of like it that it has like dates in it. Maybe. Yeah, I'll pick this one. This one looks okay. But it's cool because when you click on it, it actually copies the React component to your clipboard. So I can just go ahead and do that, and I believe I can auto import it. No, I can't auto import it. Let's go back to the docs. I need to view how you do this. So the caveat is you have to import it from the corresponding sub package. So if I do this, if I go ahead and import this, remember this is a BS package, and I need to go up here and import it from the BS. So this one was called BS. Don't remember what it was called. So let's go back down. Where is it? There we go. All right, moment of truth. Let's go back to the UI and see if it loads. All right, there you have it. You got a calendar icon. You click it. It will toggle your calendar. Now, I don't know if I should do this in a modal. I'm like having like UX design decisions in my head. Again, I'm not a UXer or a user interface person or like a designer, but as a user of the app, you always want to do, or you always want to design your application to allow the user to do things with very little friction and also give them the opportunity to just like focus on the things that are the most important, right? So again, if the most important thing is like actually adding entries to today's date, then that's what we should probably do. Like we probably need to add a button that says go to today. Like if you're kind of going through this app to get back to today's date, you have to click on the calendar. Then you got to click on this yellow highlighted one, which might not be obvious what the yellow highlight means until you actually look at it and be like, oh, okay, well, 25th is today because right now it's the 25th, almost 8 o'clock. So if I click on this, it'll take me to today's. And that was another thing that I just noticed. The calendar didn't close when I clicked on the date, which might be something else that we kind of want to work on. So let's just go back to that on change event. Command F is your friend. Use it as much as you can to go to the code that you want. And I'm just going to go ahead and say set show calendar of false. All right. So when you actually click on one of these dates from the calendar, let's just go ahead and auto close this, right? They've already selected the date they want. So make it as user friendly as you can. Again, we need to add a button that says like go to today. So let's just go ahead and add another button here. Is go to today. And like I mentioned before, like adding the functionality to do this stuff is the most important. And then adding the styling later can, you know, you can figure that out later. But how do we go to today's date? So we need to basically set the selected date equal to today. Now, what I would do is, since this logic, you know, I'm just gonna make a function called go to today. Const go to today. And that's gonna be a function that basically just calls set selected date, new date. So that should be a useful function that we can call down here wherever we did that. I'm just gonna call it like that. And notice I named it the same convention as we did this, right? Keep your naming convention consistent. If you have a go to previous and a go to next, anytime you change the date and you add a new function, probably prefix it with go to so it makes sense to other developers and yourself, like what it's actually doing. So we can go back and click go to today. And that works fine. Click on the calendar, do some stuff, go back to today. Okay, we're adding some cool features. We're making some progress. Now what I'm gonna do is commit. Instead of doing the command line commit, I'm gonna do it the old fashioned way just because I wanna kind of show how this can be done. So you can click through the files individually to see what's been changed, just to verify that you're not committing like console logs or potentially, you know, debug code. And you wanna make sure you didn't add anything that you don't want committed. So let's just go ahead and click that add button there. Now I am using Yarn and I'm also using NPM, like I'm mixing and matching. So I don't really know. So, to be honest, I don't use Yarn at all. So I don't know if I need to commit the Yarn lock or the package lock or the package JSON. Well, obviously I need to commit the package JSON, but I don't know which lock I need to commit. But since I think when you generate Next.js, it only creates a Yarn lock, I am just going to commit the Yarn lock, which hopefully this has the new packages I installed. I don't know if it does. React calendar, it does. So it looks like when you use npm, somehow Yarn knows to also update. Don't know how that works under the hood. but I'm going to revert the package lock because I think that was a new file added. And let's just go ahead and commit. So I'm going to say added a calendar component to allow users to select a date. Also added a go to today button. Now, I don't know if there's a limit on your commit size. I don't think there is, but I'm going to go ahead and just push this. And like I said, always commit. Just every time you add a new feature that works, like when you have a working copy of your code, just commit it, because it's really useful when you like get too far into your coding and it's just you start breaking stuff. But yeah, let's just let's see. This component is 200 lines long. It's starting to get pretty big. At some point, you can start thinking about how can I split this up into smaller components or reusable components, but don't go down that path until you fully understand like the abstractions that you're about to abstract away. Right? I could just simply put all this stuff in other files and stuff, but it's like, what does this actually gain me, right? You want to keep your cohesion high, which means that if code depends on each other, you keep them as close as possible together. There's this idea of like high cohesion and low coupling. Coupling is like when you have two components that, are kind of connected in terms of dependencies. You want to keep the dependencies as low as possible so it's easier to refactor later on. But also you want to keep cohesion high, meaning that if you have a bunch of date functions, it would make sense that all those date functions are found in a single date utility file or folder, right? That's the whole idea of cohesion. So all these functions are very, very specific to this home page, which means to keep the cohesion high, it makes sense to just keep them as close as possible. Like even these aren't used anywhere else in the app. So it doesn't make sense yet to abstract them away into like service helper files. You can do that if you do plan to use them in the future. But again, nowhere else in the application uses them. So don't, get ahead of yourself refactoring code if you know that this code's not used anywhere yet. Anyway, that was my little dev tip for the day. So where do I want to go with this? I have a calendar. It works pretty good. I did talk about how I wanted to maybe style the dates. So let's maybe look into that. I don't like how there's no like exit button here. I don't know if they provide that. Let me close some of this stuff. Like, do they have an exit or a close button? They don't, from what I'm seeing with the Command F searching. So maybe we'll save that for later. It might not be possible or might not be easy. So how do you style these? Because it looks like they're styling Saturday and Sunday to be red. So let's see if they have a way to easily style the styling of the days. Last names that will be added along with React Calendar to the main React Calendar. So I'm assuming we might have to do something with class names. Format date, format long date, format month, format year. What is format date doing? So I think I can use format date if I want to change what this is printing out. Like instead of 25, I could do, I don't know, some type of extra character to say that it was a bad day or a good day. Like a thumbs up, maybe an angry face or a bad face. But let's just keep on looking down like what we have. Navigation, next label. So this is just a bunch of like customization in terms of like the text and stuff. And on click day function is called when user clicks a day. I wonder if I should have used that instead of on change. I think on change works for when the user clicks a day. Day on month view, month on year view, and so on. Yeah, so I don't know if I did that right. Let's go back. If I click on this, I think it's still calling on change. At least I thought I was supposed to. Because if you look at the docs, it says on change. function called when the user clicks an item, day on month view, month on year, and so on the most detailed view available, which is what I'm doing. If I click on the March and click February, I am clicking on a month of the year. So let's just make sure that this isn't happening, because this isn't really like the functionality I wanted to go for. So let's print out a console log and just see what happens if I click on like a month. So it's not printing out. So I don't know if their docs are correct. Their docs seem like they're not doing what they say they do, or maybe I just can't understand what this is saying, but I think we're good. How do you style this thing? Okay, so that's what I'm kind of trying to go at. How do you style it? And what I might need to do, why it's so fast, lightweight, and easy to style. All right, so we have to get our hands dirty and figure out how to style this. So let's look at the CSS class names and whatever that are on these calendar things, and let's look at what's going on. So this has a style that looks like it is like, where does it become red? So if you click on this in the browser, there's like a computed tab, and you can see like where the color is setting to red, which happens to be on this button DOM element. Well, it's also on this label here, but I'm assuming there's something here that is making this red, and it's this React calendar day weekend. So I don't want to style the weekend red. Like, it's cool that it's red, but we want to reserve certain colors for actual like symptoms. So let's just go ahead and see if we can kind of overwrite that styling. So how do you, if we go back to class, I think there's like a prop called class name. IO class names that will be applied to the given calendar item. How does this work? So I think we might want to use the tile class name. They gave you a little function to kind of show you how it works, and you can kind of customize what is going on here. So let's just go ahead and use their example and see what that does. This looks like if you're on the month view and you're on day 3, you can give it a class of Saturday. I don't know why they do that as an example. It's kind of strange. But what is the month view they're talking about? All right, I might need the console log some stuff. So like, what is date? What is view? If they're adding a class called Saturday to day 3, so let's just look at day 3. Does it have Saturday on it? It doesn't, but day 4 has Saturday on it for some reason. Just kind of strange. So maybe this is like an index by 1 thing. So like day 4, if the view is month and the day is 3. So if I do day is 0, will that be 1? A great way to learn about libraries and packages and how to code is just experiment with stuff. Don't be afraid to just change example code and see what happens. So I changed this 3 to a 0 because I want to kind of test the theory that 0 means the first day of the week. But I don't know if my theory is right, because this should say, oh, it does say Saturday. Okay. So yeah, that's how you can style stuff. What I could do is I could just check if the we're gonna come back to this. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm jumping around, but that's just the way my brain works. I can't focus on one thing. Like if I see something that's more higher priority to fix, I try to fix it. But we want to go back. We want to remove these red things. So this should be pretty easy to do. All we need to do is just find the styling and just overwrite it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my global, I believe we should have some global styling somewhere. So if I go to public, or sorry, if I go to styles, there should be a global CSS. I don't know if this is the best place to put this, but I'm just going to make this a color black. I believe the globals will get, maybe they're added later, so we can't do that. It would help if I spelled weekend correctly, but I don't think that's the thing that's causing it not to be black. So we need to just figure out like where we should put this. We could put this in the home module, and I could say like calendar, and I could apply a class name. So let me go back and remove. If you remember in the calendar here, you can actually provide a class name, and I could say calendar. So that'll apply a calendar class to my calendar. But I think we want to use CSS modules, so we need to import that. Which again, in CSS modules, I don't use much, to be honest with you all. But I think you say styles.calendar, and this will access the first class name here. Now I don't think this is proper CSS, or is it? Is it proper CSS? Yeah, it should be. You can do like nested components like this. So I might spend a whole hour trying to figure out how to overwrite this. But let's first see if, you know, this thing is actually getting a calendar class, because the docs say that you should be able to. Container, React calendar, home calendar. So this is my styling that I added the CSS module for, home calendar. And we should be able to access or overwrite this weekend thing. There's probably an easier way to do this. Honestly, I might have taken a bad path, but how can we do this? Like, I don't want to have to say important. This is just hacky. But sometimes, like, if it's not easy to customize a React or like a styling on a page, sometimes you do have to add importance to stuff. But even so, that's not working. So let me take a different approach. Okay, let me not get too caught up on this. I'm going to take a different approach, and for tile class name, I'm just going to return a string for right now called calendar day. How about that? And we don't need the return statement because we don't have the curly braces on this function. But let's go ahead and save this. And now we should be able to hopefully select a calendar day using CSS selectors. I can say if select any calendar class that contains a calendar day component, change the color to black, which unfortunately that's still not working. If you look at the actual component, it has calendar day on it. And for some reason, calendar day is not being applied. Let me try adding this to globals. Maybe this is like an issue with the way I'm understanding CSS modules. If I add it to that, does that apply it to that thing? Class of calendar day. What's also concerning is that calendar day is not even showing up. You know, let me try a hard refresh of this page. Nope, that didn't do it either. This is why I hate CSS. To do something trivial like change a color, you end up spending like hours of just like changing stuff to see why it's not working. Now, if you're a CSS master, you probably could have fixed this in like 5 minutes. But I'm just trying to, any class that says calendar day, I just want to overwrite the color. Like it should be pretty simple, right? But it's just not working. So let's just do it the old-fashioned hacky way. Let's see if this changes anything. Okay, so that changed it. So we're on to something. Now, the only issue is that it made this gray stuff, like now it's actually gray. So it's going to be hard to just like know if it's a weekend or not. Where's global imported? Maybe I can just kind of change the way I'm doing this. So inside of this, we import globals, but then we import the calendar inside the component itself. So let's kind of change away how some of this stuff is set up. So I'm going to instead import the CSS of the calendar at the top level. Maybe it's not the best approach, but what this allows us to do is we can go and we can overwrite this class here, and I should be able to do something like this. And I just want to say if it's a weekend, make it black maybe. This one can probably just go away. Why is this not working? So sometimes you got to go down and figure out why. Like here is the calendar import. This is my globals. This should be overwritten with black, but it's not. Let's try a hard page reload to see if that fixes anything. Sometimes you might just have to restart next. Oh, that actually worked. So I did a hard page refresh and now it's gone. So again, what I did was inside the index, we were importing the CSS style sheet in this component, which is good because it doesn't mean that the calendar has to load for every page, but I moved it to this global. You know what? I think we can do better. I think we can do better. So let's move this thing back. I think I'm getting an idea. And we can import another file if Next allows us to do this. I don't think it might. Can we import an override here called like calendar override? I know there's like some bug in, let's see, cannot resolve calendar override. So we're just trying some stuff out to see if this works. I've seen issues where you can't import CSS files unless it's like global. I don't know. Let's see. Let's refresh. The file exists now. Cannot resolve styles calendar override. So I need to go up a level. How many levels do I need to go up? Is it just one? I think it's just one. Pages index. Global CSS cannot be imported from files other than your custom app due to the global nature of style sheets. And to avoid conflicts, please move all first-party global CSS imports to page app.js or... Okay, so there's an issue. You can't do this in your components, like your pages. So we do have to kind of go back. This is like something I don't like about this Next.js. We have to go back and we have to import this in our main app. I don't know. It's fine. Let's just do that. Not the most desired approach. I was thinking we could just do like a simple file and like overwrite it, but it's not working, and I don't truly understand CSS modules too well to know how to like individually overwrite that component. But if you know and you're watching, let me know. But otherwise, now we have a way to get rid of that red text, which is great. So we can write a custom function that can loop over every entry that you have, and we can just change the color of it to something else depending on how your symptoms were. Okay, but I might save that for another day because I think this video has been going on for 30+ minutes. I want to keep my little section small. So let's just go ahead and add another commit here and just say that we added the custom weekend styling. So let's add that, I'm going to say override the red weekend styling of the calendar. Spelled that wrong. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's push it. And that should sync up. And that's about it. That's all I wanted to kind of do in this video. Next video, we are going to have to figure out how to make this calendar change text based on the entry. Now, the reason I'm saving that for another day is because it's going to require probably another backend, another request, because we need to get all of the data from Mongo, crunch some numbers, and get a nice map to know like what date has what values. So we don't have that functionality in the backend right now, and I know that's going to take probably a whole day or a whole, part 5 to record, part 6, whatever. Anyway, thumbs up, give me a subscribe, leave a comment, and be sure to look out for the next video. Have a good day and happy coding.